or the countries they're serving in. But the new cardinal is taking a moment to greet all the Rome-based cardinals that are here today. I mentioned that this is an ordinary consistory. That implies that there exists such a thing as an extraordinary consistory, and that's true. There are extraordinary consistories rather, which every cardinal is expected to attend. The most famous kind of extraordinary consistory is a conclave. The conclave is called after the death or retirement of a pope for the election of a new one. There are also extraordinary consistories called by the Pope, normally when the Pope wants to discuss something. Pope Francis has done that twice, I believe. Twice or three times wants to discuss the family and wants to discuss his reform of the Roman Curia. And these extraordinary consistories are occasions for all the cardinals to come together, to discuss, to work things out. So if any of you are at home wondering, well, what does a cardinal do? There are different things cardinals can do. Cardinals are basically the highest position in the church's hierarchy after the Pope. Many of them serve in the Vatican. They serve as the heads of dicasteries or Vatican departments. It used to be the case that every department in the Vatican was headed by a cardinal. That's not the case anymore. So my dicastery, actually the dicastery for communication, is headed by a layman, by Paolo Ruffini, an Italian journalist. But it remains the case that most of the most important jobs in the Vatican are headed by cardinals, but not all of them. And also not all cardinals, as I was saying, are based in Rome. You can find cardinals all over the world, often in charge of important dioceses, but not always. And one of the hallmarks of Pope Francis's papacy actually has been he's not picked just the heads of really major dioceses to be cardinals, as was more common before him, but he's picked sometimes people who are not archbishops. They're not even sometimes particularly well known. An example of that is he was well known, but he wasn't even a bishop. Father Timothy Radcliffe, we saw earlier, not dressed in the same way as the other cardinals. He's chosen to remain a priest. It would be normal to be ordained a bishop if you weren't already a bishop before becoming a cardinal, but he wanted to remain a priest, and he's been allowed to do that. And cardinals, so I said they can be out in the church in the world, or they can be in Rome running an important Vatican office. Another task that cardinals are often called to do is to be an envoy for the Pope. So if there's somewhere that the Pope doesn't want to go or can't go for whatever reason, but he'll often send an envoy to represent him. A high-profile example of that recently has been Cardinal Matteo Maria Zuppi, who's the head of the Italian Bishops' Conference, who has been travelling around the world representing Pope Francis on these peace journeys. So the Pope is really concerned about the wars in the world. One of those is the war between Russia and Ukraine, and the Pope, it's really a priority for him to put an end to that. And so Cardinal Zuppi, who I mentioned, has on the Pope's behalf travelled to Kiev in Ukraine. He's travelled to Moscow in Russia. He's travelled to Washington DC, and he's travelled to Beijing. And in each of those places he's gone as the Pope's messenger of peace. He's met with government representatives, normally quite high-level government representatives, to discuss paths towards peace, to stress that the Church is available to negotiate if that's something that the various parties in the conflict would find useful. And so that's just one example of a task that a cardinal could be called upon to perform. This idea of being a papal envoy is quite common. But it's most cardinals will never be asked to do something like that. So as I was saying, there are a variety of jobs that they could do. For those of you following via radio, all the cardinals have now received the biretta, they've received the ring, they've received the papal bull, and they're making the rounds of all the other cardinals here and greeting them. There are quite a lot of cardinals, which is why it's still going on. I don't know exactly how many of the College of Cardinals are based in Rome, but there's a fair amount here, and so the new cardinals are still going around greeting them, doing the classic Italian kiss on both cheeks, and taking a moment to say hi to each of their now fellow cardinals here in Rome today. And as I was saying, it's not just the cardinals that are here, there are a total over 5,000 people. That's the estimate. The basilica is very full, with well-wishers, with family, with friends, with journalists, with representatives also from the governments of the countries that these cardinals belong to. So it's often seen by foreign governments as quite a big moment, when particularly perhaps countries that don't expect to have cardinals, and so there are often government representatives